Hey there, welcome. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. It says a lot that you have to put together a task force to deal with any problem. You have so many accusations, whether they're false or otherwise, that you need to dedicate specific resources just to deal with the accusations. Interesting, but nothing to see here. He's all okay. Are you skeptical? I think my first guest is too. Anthony Russo's back on Truth Will Set You Free podcast. Welcome back to the show. Doesn't the fact that this guy has to set up a cheap fakes task force belie the truth that this really is a problem for Joe Biden? Anthony, go. Can you hear him in the background? I hear like background music or something. Anthony, you there? All right, Garrett, check on him. All right. So but you've probably heard Anthony Russo on the show before, the Truth Will Set You Free podcast. And what we're supposed to get into here is the White House has their cheap fakes task force now. And this is their response to some of the videos that keep coming out on an almost daily basis. But there's not going to be one that comes out today. Let's talk about that. Joe Biden's schedule today is he gets a presidential daily briefing at 10 a.m., of which most presidents don't even attend all of those. Like Biden... I remember Obama went to like less than 30% of his, and I think Trump went to less than half of his, and George Bush was only really attending his when it was wartime. So it's not that big of a deal that he misses it, but he probably does miss that. He probably sends someone in his stead to do that. And then later this afternoon, after the James Show, he's going to be traveling. He's going to be traveling all the way from his house in Delaware to Hagerstown, Maryland. And that's it. That's all he's going to do. No public statements, no questions from the press, no interviews, no joint press conferences with the leader of some country you can't find on a map. Nothing public. So I think that was the task force first success story. Here's how we prevent more freeze videos from being deceptively edited and misinformation out there. Just like not have him do anything today. So today's going to be a good day for the Cheap Fakes Response Task Force. I just think it's also adorable that this guy is less than 5 months away from a presidential election and he's not campaigning. He's not having any public events. He's not doing anything that would, get his message out, because that's what every other incumbent president does when they're up for re-election. We're going to try Anthony Russo again from the Truth Will Set You Free podcast. So, Anthony, I was just talking with the listener here about the idea of just having a cheap fakes response task force. Kind of is an admission that they have a problem.
100%. First off, can you hear me? Check one, check two.
Sound great. Go, Anthony.
All right. Sorry. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that they're even changing the terminology from deep fakes to cheap fakes, which isn't even a real word because the administration doesn't know what a deep fake is. This is the new version of the word debunked. They had the issue where they're like, we're going to debunk 2,000 mules. We're going to debunk all these things without ever actually debunking it. This cheap fake idea is hilarious because they're providing misinformation to people. The best one is him freezing on stage when he's leaving with Jimmy Kimmel and Barack Obama, and Barack Obama has to grab him by the wrist. What they do is they say that's a fake video, and then the video they disprove it with cuts away about 200 yards from the stage and says this is the real footage. At this point, if the American people can't understand that this is the ultimate misinformation, this is essentially like the Chinese government pretending that Tiananmen Square didn't happen. That's where we are with this quote-unquote cheap fakes.
The problem that they have, though, is anyone who really goes and does honest, hard work research will find an uncut video from the right angle that shows the opposite. How do they get away with this?
I don't know. I mean, you bring up a valid point. What I will say is when I do the search if I do the search on, say, DuckDuckGo and Google, it's very difficult for me to find the original footage. And I'm specifically talking about that stage footage. And then in terms of the footage in France, when the paratrooper came down and he's looking the wrong direction, they're managing to just change the narrative where it's like this. I believe it was the Prime Minister of Italy. She had to pull him back over. It's blatant that he doesn't know where he is. And instead of attacking it with actual information, they know that they own 90% of the media. So they have the ability to give a one-sided angle and know that most of America is going to think that the conservative news is full of lies, even though in this case, there is nothing more true than the last 3 weeks of Joe Biden showing that he is even more of a shell of himself than he was 3 months ago, let alone 10 years ago.
So what does this do to the rumors that are getting louder and louder and louder that this guy's going to be replaced? I know the initial question everyone has is, who would you replace him with? But, I mean, could it be worse than this guy?
I mean, it could be worse. Unfortunately, it could be worse because he can actually provide some competition to Trump. And you know that I've said this since literally October, November of last year. Joe Biden will not be the nominee, and I've been saying Newsom. Newsom is a far worse choice, far more dangerous choice because he actually thinks on that elitist level. But Gavin Newsom is somebody that if they replace late enough at the DNC, at the convention, if they replace late enough, the narrative will not be getting to the American people about how bad he's done for California quick enough, and they're going to see a slick, polished, younger guy to go against Trump. And I think it provides a formidable competition to the quote-unquote Trump train that we're seeing right now.
Well, you get kudos for sticking with your prediction because I've been soft on it, and I'm even softer now. Even though he looks bad, Anthony, they're running out of time. We have like 3 or 4 states that have the early voting and the mail-in voting and whatnot. They're about to start printing their ballots. Well, that's how close we are. We're within 5 months here. So they're going to have to make a change like within a month. I think like their deadline for when ballots start to get printed is like the first week of August.
When's the Democratic National Convention? I don't have the exact dates in front of me.
I don't know. I think it's in August. I think the Republicans are in July and Democrats are in August. Is that correct?
That's what I feel like. So I feel like, again, I do think that's what they're going to replace. Granted, I think that they're going to have room to replace right after the first debate in June. I think the later they go, the better. But I think where they legally can replace him based on their rules, based on the DNC rules, and the RNC has the same thing, is at their convention.
Right.
So I don't know how that lines up with the ballot printing. Again, who's in charge of the ballot printing? I think we can understand that if things need to be tweaked, they'll find a way to tweak it as needed.
All right. And the date on the Democrat National Convention, we were right. August 19th through 22nd.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Anthony Russo. Truth Will Set You Free podcast. Check him out wherever you're listening to podcasts already.
Take it easy, guys.
Thank you, Anthony. All right, what do you think? Did you think he's going to be replaced? I love this conversation because the window is just about closed. And I've heard a lot of people, Anthony sounded real positive that he was correct. I remember I played the quote from Joe Rogan a few months ago where he's like, he's going to be replaced in May. They're setting it up for a May replacement. Well, May's come and gone. That's already happened. They're going to replace him before the primaries. The primaries have come and gone. So we're running out of off-ramps for this presidency. And I think the cheap fake task force is a sign that they need a little help. They need a little bit of a lifeline. And really, their Alamo for this guy being their candidate, for lack of a better metaphor, is going to be next week's debate. That's what's going to make next week's debate so awesome. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let me ask you this. It's maybe this. Let's explore this together. What if this cheap, fake task force from the Biden administration, we say, well, you set that up, you're just going to draw more attention to the videos. What if that's what they want? Do you think they're doing that on purpose? Because this is controlling the narrative. And if the focus of the criticism against your candidate is all ad hominem, well, then you're just hurting the man. You're not hurting the policies. You're not hurting the record that he has. You're not hurting his narrative on what's going on with the economy or foreign policy or relations among different groups in society. You're talking about what? So he walks funny? So he wears a diaper? So he has some Johnny number 5 short circuits every once in a while? Maybe that's what they want. Because what if we weren't talking about this? It has the same feeling as the real impetus for all these Trump charges and these Trump lawsuits and these Trump trials. As long as we're talking about that, we're not talking about the unemployment that's headed in the wrong direction. Look, the number's still good, but it's headed in the wrong direction. It's higher than it was under Trump. Inflation also headed in the wrong direction. Now, it's not as high as that 9% mountain they brought to us a couple of years ago, but it's still higher than it was when he took office. We have the report this last week of a program, $7 billion of your tax dollars, to build electric vehicle charging stations. 2 years later, we have 8 charging stations to show for it. That's almost $1 billion per charging station. What a colossal failure. I mean, the best way to put it is, okay, so that program is a little inefficient, right? I bet you could build a charging station, and you've never done that before, for less than $1 billion. You could figure it out. You could probably build one for less than $1 million. You could probably build one, I don't know, $100,000. But there's another headline that maybe we would be talking about it if Home Skillet wasn't wandering off in Normandy or bumping into walls like a Roomba or can't say Mayorkas or whatever else he's doing today and tomorrow and the next day. There's another report that says this other program, they spent 20-something billion of your dollars to expand rural broadband. 2 years later, you know how many customers it has? It's expanded to exactly 0. 0 people have gotten service from it. Another report that came out, I think this was last week, the interest payments on our national debt now cost more than the military every year. We spend more to kite the debt of the stuff that we bought years ago that we're probably not even using anymore. We're getting no benefit out of it. So for previous year's deficits, previous year's irresponsibility, you're paying that tab right now. And the tab is bigger than the largest military in the world. And if doesn't sound out of control, remember, we have the largest military in the world. We have a bigger military budget than the next 28 countries combined. Well, you know what? The national debt's a bigger problem than that, because just servicing it. Now, it's not like we're paying it down. This is just to kick the can. What do you think? Let's try this. Rick in Dallas. You're on WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What do you think?
I think that they're definitely bringing attention to Biden's incompetence. They want to replace him. But sadly, I don't think they're fixing this country. I think we got 2 dementia patients running up against each other. I think it's a clown show. There's really going to be no fixing the economy. I think by 2030, Americans will probably know what famine feels like.
What?
And like the military budget, I mean, half of that's grift anyway. I was in the military and I saw how contractors just steal from the government blind. So. Oh,
sure. So you're also in the camp that thinks Biden's going to be replaced.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get Newsom. No
really? Because that's what my first guest just said. You're saying this. Don't you feel like the window is closed on that, on the swap?
Nah. I think we're in such a clown world now that they could probably roll out Hillary Clinton on the day before and Democrats would go for it.
Oh, of course they would. Half of this country has been trained to hate Donald Trump so bad they would vote for, I don't know, Shrek or I don't know.
I mean, but on the converse side, like if they replace Trump with Byron Daniels tomorrow, or like the guys from Florida is, if they replace him with anybody, they would beat Biden too. I mean,
Byron Donalds.
They're both just If they replaced like really, if the Democrats wanted to be smart, they would go for Brashear out of Kentucky. That guy's pretty impressive for a moderate Democrat, but they don't want to do it. They're far left, so.
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with that guy to even have an opinion. I mean, I've barely heard his name before. So I'm impressed that you people are sticking with, and I don't mean to, lump you into a box here, but y'all are sticking with the idea that he's going to be replaced. I guess this would all have to happen at the convention?
I mean, I don't think it has to happen to the convention. I don't think they can do it whatever they want. They can just change the rules. We see how they change the rule on the fly to pretty much do whatever they want, justify whatever crappy behavior they have for the day is.
So don't you think that they would kill themselves if they put Gavin Newsom out there? He doesn't poll that well, and then they would also take a lot of grief because why didn't Kamala get it? Why are you leapfrogging a female and a person of color in order to put a different old white guy in to replace the other old white guy? And he's straight on top of that, Rick.
I don't think that matters. I mean, you had Joe Biden go tell Charlemagne the God that if you don't vote for him, you ain't black, and they still went with it. So, I don't think it matters. I think people have really made up their mind. They're either going to vote Republican or they're going to vote Democrat. And, me, I'm not voting. I think if voting mattered, they wouldn't let us do it. I don't think the president has any real power.
All right. Rick wins the Cynicism Award. Thank you, Rick in Dallas. What do you think? 800-288-WBAP. 800-288-9227. There's still a lot of people that sound really positive that he's going to be replaced. I'm just warning y'all that ship is getting close to have sailed. But I guess we'll really know after next week's debate now, won't we? Is he even going to make it? Will Biden be the nominee in November? 800-288-9227. 9227. 800-288-9227. Because the two corollaries that go with that is who would they replace him with? And if they're not going to replace him with Kamala, aren't they going to make the women and the color lobby really mad and get a lot of criticism for that? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, behind the scenes and mostly Facebook messages, I'm getting it from both ends. People are saying it's too late for Biden to be replaced. They're just going to roll with it. But I am getting more people who are still of the mind that even though we're just 5 months away, they swear Biden's going to be replaced. Well, when? Who will it be? Who would do better? I don't know. Here's my theories. If they have talked Michelle Obama into running for president, she'd win. Period, point blank in their story. They replace Biden with her. All this black vote that's sort of drifting like wood in a pond over toward Trump is immediately going to snap back. And turnout is going to happen. There was record black turnout when Obama got elected. Record black turnout that was almost identical. I mean, the black turnout went from like the low 60% to somewhere up in the 80s percent turnout. So they had like a 20% of the black population voted because there's a black dude on the ballot, and then they went away when it was time for Hillary and Biden. They'll come back. They'll win. If they get Michelle Obama to run to replace Biden, they have that's probably their best chance of winning. I just don't think she wants the job. I think if you hate this country, it'd be like, would you want to be the head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles? Not really. Bleh. So she kind of feels about it like that. Plus, she didn't enjoy it. You have to really be a power-hungry narcissist to like that job. People are always up in your grill. Half the country hates you. Everywhere you go, someone's taking a picture of you, which means you can never leave the house without your makeup on. You can never leave the house in a baggy T-shirt and sweatpants. You can never leave the house without your wig on. And she doesn't want to live like that. The life she has now is much more comfortable and luxurious and posh and free of criticism. She hangs out with people she likes her. Not everybody hates her. She doesn't have to go on a bunch of trips and meet a bunch of people she doesn't like. She has the life she wants now. What if they tried to roll out Hillary Clinton? I don't think that would work. I think that's the only thing that's really holding them back is that they don't have anybody to replace them with. And then there's also the idea that, the puppet masters don't actually have strings. They don't have marionette strings on Joe Biden. They can kind of control him and convince him to do what they want. But in the end, some of these decisions really do stop with him. They can't make him drop out. They can highly suggest. They can put pressure on him. They can give him all kinds of incentives. They can offer him the world. They can offer him the moon. But if he wants to go for another 4 years and he refuses to play along, I don't think they can make him walk the plank if he doesn't want to. So maybe they all want him to be replaced. Maybe they even have their candidate. They just can't get him to step down voluntarily. What do you think? 800-288-9227. This is going to be Bob in Plano. Hey, Bob in Plano, you're on WBAP 820 AM 93.3 FM. What do you think?
I wanted to talk about the debate, but can I say something real quick about your last caller?
Sure.
Trump is not a geriatric. I don't know what's wrong with these people. It's the media. They're pushing they're gaslighting. I mean, look at him do his rallies. He's 78. Yeah, he's not 81, and he's only going to be there 4 years. Listen, about the debate, what Trump needs to say in his opening statement is this. Joe Biden looked at you in the eye and told everybody here in America that laptop was fake. It's real. We've seen it. We've seen what's on it. He lied to the American public about being associated with his son Hunter. He lied to you. And not only him, but the people like here that are hosting this debate lied to you. And lastly, why would you believe him now? He's a liar, and he's not going to be replaced. He's not going to leave. Jill wants him there more than ever. So this is what's going to happen, and Trump's just going to and then from there you can take it. He could be all professional and everything, but he needs to come out in the opening statement and say, why would you believe him now? He lied to you. And we've had 3.5 years, and now all of a sudden things are supposedly, I haven't seen it, getting better right before an election, and we're just supposed to forgive 3.5 years of living hell. I know my family pays over $1,100 a month personally, and the last caller really needs to get with it. That border People are getting murdered by illegals. Murdered. Maybe if it happens to somebody in his family, he'll change his views.
All right. Thank you very much, Bob in Plano. He thinks Biden's going to stick with it, and he's just going to get rolled in November. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, because I'm telling you, like that window of opportunity, I really thought if they were going to replace it, it would be before the primaries. And I guess the last chance they really have to do it before it's just a chaotic scramble would be the convention. So we have until 2 months from today, basically, to know what's going to happen with that. Back to the phones. Jordan and Wills Point. You're on 820 AM, now 93.3 FM WBAP. What do you think, Jordan?
Howdy, howdy. Why would they replace him? They didn't need to replace him during the 2020 election. They cheated. Why should they go with anybody else? What difference does it make who runs? They could put Gumby up there. If they're going to cheat, it doesn't matter who runs.
Yeah, so do they still...
who the face of the Democrat Party is.
That is a legit point, because one of the things that whenever I talk to someone who is a official capital R Republican, I say, what have y'all done to stop the early voting, to stop the mail-in ballots, to stop this thing that happened last time from happening this time? And they don't really have a good answer for me.
No, crickets. That's what you hear. That's what you hear out of the Republican Party when it comes to protecting the election integrity. You hear crickets. Nothing.
Well, do they not look? Well, go ahead and put on your conspiracy theory hat. Why do they not care? Do they want to be cheated?
They don't care because they've already got it in the bag. They already know they've got it in the bag. They do not care. They don't care about the American public. They don't care about Joe Biden. They don't care about any of it. They care about power. They care about carrying on their agenda. And whatever their agenda is, meets, or whatever criteria they need to meet to continue that agenda, they will do. If it means killing people, they're going to kill people. If it means jailing people, they're going to jail people.
Yeah, if it means shutting down your kid's school,
run for president,
right? But if it means shutting down your kid's school, if it means preventing you from going to church, if it means putting a piece of cloth over your child's face just so they can go out in public, if they have to close down your favorite restaurant, they'll do it. Oh, I hear you.
Have you not read the millions of conspiracy theories out there? They're talking about terrorist attacks to prevent us from going to the polls. Is it going to happen before, or is it going to happen after the election? It doesn't matter who takes the reins. If they leave Trump with a pile of excrement covered with flies, what is he going to do with it?
All right, Jordan, see you got some strong opinions. I appreciate you calling in on the show, bud.
Take care. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jordan. Jordan in Wills Point is done playing with you people. Jordan in Wills Point has had enough. What do you think? 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. That's the phone number. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Julie Bauke. 80% of workers say they're afraid of their employer's HR department. You're damn right we are. HR sends you an email. It's never good. Hey, we need to have a meeting with you, sir. Can you come down to the fourth floor? It's never good. It's not like, hey, we had an extra moo bar from lunch. You want some dessert? No. I hear you. We'll talk about that next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Hey, good to see you too. Hi there. Well, it's another day, but not another freeze video. Your president is being hidden behind closed doors. So, in the absence of any fun Roomba-like videos, let's talk about this other report that came out. A terrorist threat is imminent in America. This was on FoxNews.com, and a big part of the justification for the heightened alert level is the fact that we've just let in a few million people. We have no idea who they are, and we have caught a few terrorists and terrorist-sympathetic people in this mass. Who knows what actually got through? David Hamilton's back from the America's Future series. What's your take on this report that a terrorist threat is imminent in America?
Well, big picture, we know that during 9/11, that about 10 to 12 terrorists were able to get through the front door. They came through our ports of call, ports of entry, and we can track those. But when you look at our border, with the number of people that we catch, we caught 8 known terrorists 2 days ago. With the number that we've catch, we know that there's a huge number of getaways, people that we have no idea are getting through. And it is almost impossible to imagine that out of the 10 to 12 million people who've crossed illegally in the past decade or so, that some of those aren't terrorists who are planning things similar to the 9/11 attack. So that has always been true. It's true today. It gets highlighted with two things. One, when you catch some, and they're notable, they're ISIS members. But then when an expert, a CIA, et cetera, like the report you're talking about, comes out and says, it's imminent. Well, it's always been imminent. It's always a possibility. And it becomes more imminent or probable when you think there's a good target for them, especially when we're looking at around a national election like this. So as we get closer to the election, I think actually, it becomes more and more likely that there is a terrorist attack of some sort. But we really have to be grateful for the job that our law enforcement and our border people and our intelligence community are able to do. I'm still stunned that since 9/11, there hasn't been an attack like that, given how open our borders are and how easy a target America is.
So if they do something before the election, that'll change the electorate's opinion. But how? Would that be good for Trump or Biden? I mean, I think Trump, but I'm not even sure. Yeah,
I'm not sure either. And we don't focus much on that with our group, America's Future Series. We focus mostly on policy. Only on policy. The key thing here is that there is no country in America that has a policy similar to ours with regard to immigration. There is no country in the world that has ever let this many people intentionally through by not enforcing its own policies, as America has, whether they are terrorists, people looking for asylum, people looking just for a better life. It is unprecedented. America has always invited, bring us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That has been our mantra. But what we've never said is let's let people who belong to cartels, who are doing sex trafficking, drug trafficking, and are possible terrorists. And that's where we have to get a handle on this. We have to be able to control who comes through. Every country does that. And most countries view immigration as a matter of competitive advantage, letting people with great key skills and with money and the ability to create jobs, they let those folks through preferentially. We're not screening for any of that.
Okay, but are these the same experts in the intelligence community that said the Hunter laptop was Russian disinformation? Because I think a lot of people are skeptical of what comes out of that crew.
I will simply say this. They say these things at certain times when they want for the greatest effect, right? Now, these are sometimes you're hearing an ex-CIA, an ex-intelligence officer talking about these things, and that's kind of random. But when these things come up and they're on official channels, I'm like you. I have to ask, why am I hearing about it now when it's always a threat? And I don't have a great answer for that other than it seems that we went from time to time, the folks in those positions want to highlight the threat and they want to bring it to the nation's attention. But it's always a threat.
Yeah, there's always someone out there who seems to hate us. Do we have to just let them walk across the border, though, David? That seems like one easy variable we could control.
That seems like a non-political discussion, right? If you're a really bad person, we shouldn't let you in, right? That shouldn't be something that anyone argues about. And yet it seems somehow we're able to do that. We're able to find a way to argue about that. That level of control, though, to be able to catch those folks, you have to be able to control every man, woman, or child that comes through the border, and that's not something we've had the political will to do for the past decade or so.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to get too sensational because that pushes off people, especially cynical ones, and they have a right to be. And look, I don't know. I have no history in anything other than radio and being a computer science guy. But I don't think we have another 9/11 coming. I think we have a bunch of little small ones coming, like the guy who ran through the Christmas parade in Waukesha, or the pressure cooker bomber at the Boston Marathon. That just took one or two people for both of those operations. And I think those tiny little attacks can be every bit as terrifying as the 9/11 because it's not concentrated in one spot. It could be behind our back at any time.
Yeah, they're a lot easier to execute, and you could have more of them. The money that it took, backed by Osama bin Laden and his money, et cetera, to pull off 9/11 was pretty significant. And that kind of organizational skill is rare. However, since Iran is making a lot of money now because of their ability to produce oil, the overall cost of oil, they have a lot of money to do this. And they are the biggest threat, Hezbollah or Hamas, to pull off something like a 9/11. We're far more likely, like you say, to see small, more independent acting terrorists do something more under the radar, and it's not as sensational as what we saw with 9/11.
All right, David, what do y'all got going on in America's Future Series these days?
So we have General Milley here on September 26th. We're honoring him with the Magellan Award. General Petraeus and General Botello, the hosts. We're honoring Darcy Anderson and Hillwood for extraordinary support of our military with our 5-star award with Ross Perot there. Great event, and it's going to be at SMU. And people should check that out on the web. They can find it if they go to America's Future Series. And just Google America's Future Series will pop up, and they can see that by tables of tickets.
Yeah, it's the first thing that pops up. The website is americas-fs.org, but you don't have to remember that. It pops up. America's Future Series. Thank you very much, David Hamilton.
Thank you.
All right, so we just discussed the potentially imminent terror threat from our lax border situation. You have any comments? Do you think that a terror attack is going to happen between now and the election? Do you think one's going to happen in the next 4 years? Do you think one's imminent? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. And then when we get back, I'm going to show you what Fauci and his little circle of comrades were emailing about in the wake of the COVID outbreak. And it's exactly what you thought. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.